We're going to try and make this one a short one, but I'm already sensing that that's not gonna happen. I'm going to be brief is the promise that I make the most and break the most in my life. Would you like to talk about anxiety for a little while? I assume if you clicked on this video, the answer is yes. I think anxiety is one of those words that I never used to hear anywhere, and sadly in the last few years I've been hearing it a lot. The truth is that the world has been a bit of a weird place lately and a lot of stuff has been happening, but we don't talk about that here because I would like to keep this a happy place. As a person who lives in the world, I do get anxious sometimes about external things, but also internal ones. In case you don't know me or you're new here, my name is Marina and I'm a storytelling teacher and a writer, and I'm working right now in a few projects that I would like to, at some point in my life, publish, better sooner than later. And I like to talk about books and reading and writing, but also about how to integrate hobbies and passions in normal life for normal people that have normal jobs. And this topic of feeling anxiety or feeling stress, a lot of the time to me, either applies to the creative area of my life or affects it very directly. Even if it comes from other topics or other aspects, it always has an effect on my creativity and my writing, because I find that my creativity depends a lot on the things that happen in my life, the things that I observe, the content that I consume, the books that I read, the people that I talk to. So inevitably the way I feel is going to affect the things I create. But over the years, I've learned to implement a few tools and strategies that help me push through this trying times or these moments where I'm not feeling my best. As usual, whenever I give advice in any of my videos, I'm mostly talking to myself. I'm just trying to remind myself things that I should remember and I should keep in mind more often. And I know them, but it's not the same knowing them than remembering to apply them or knowing how to apply them at any given time. So I never really want to tell you about these tips in a way that it feels like I'm prescribing something, because I don't think I'm not a therapist. I was gonna say I'm not a teacher, but I am a teacher. So that part is true. But you guys are not my students, so you don't need to listen to me or give any credit to my words. But in case it's useful for you, I always like learning from other people's tips and strategies for daily life. So if this serves you in any way, I'll be very pleased. And since this is primarily a book channel, I would like to use for the first tip a quote that I think a lot of you will know and identify. The night is dark and full of terrors. And another literary one, never pray to the gods that answer after dark. So what the hell do I mean? And why am I always holding a tea that is way too hot to drink while I'm filming the video? It's a prop, it's cute, and it's comforting because then my hands don't get so cold. But let's focus on the night and the terrors and the darkness and all that. Maybe this happens to you as well, but I find that everything is way more scary at night. And I don't just mean that the lights are off and the streets are darker than during the morning, because that would be a bit of a stupid reflection of me to offer. But I find that a lot of insecurities and a lot of fears that I have surrounding my creativity get a lot more intense at night. Like if I'm ever thinking I will never make it as a writer, or I'm not talented enough, or all these intrusive thoughts that we get and that are like pointless and stupid and we should get rid of them, if only it was this easy to do it. So I've identified them happening more at night or towards the evening, and then the morning after realize that that's all bullshit, that none of that makes any sense and that I don't need to believe any of that. So the tip here would be sleep it off. It's not that bad, it's not that important, it's not really a problem, it's just the night playing games on you. And if you didn't identify the quotes, the first one was from A Game of Thrones by George R.R. Martin, and the second one from The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by Victoria Schwab. My second tool or strategy also sounds a little bit obvious, but a lot of us forget about it. We don't really forget, but we're cheeky and mischievous, is to sleep. You can't create if you're sleep deprived. Maybe you can. There's this idealized version of the artist that is like starving and alcoholized and like high and hasn't slept in decades, but don't be like that. Please be healthy. Please take care of yourself. It might be that there's one day that you stay up all night because you're super inspired and you're creating tons of really good material. But as a general rule, if you're sleep deprived, I think your art is gonna be worse. because your body and your brain are going to be focusing on getting through the day and surviving whatever it is that you have to do, and not really creating at their best capacity. Third one, I said I was going to be brief today, and so far I'm managing. I'm so proud of myself. Can I do it in a little rhyme? Slow is best when you're stressed. Does it ever happen to you? Hopefully it does, because I don't want to be alone in this stupid kind of situation, that when you're stressed you try and rush, and then you start knocking things over and like smacking yourself on the walls and the door frames. Okay, as I'm saying it, I'm realizing that maybe it's one of those things that it's just me and my fellow clumsies of the world. I am tremendously clumsy and I do knock things over all the time, but I do it more when I'm stressed out. So the more you're trying to rush, the less you're achieving, and the worse, like the less efficient your movement is being. I think this applies to creativity as well. So in my case, that would be in a moment where I have a lot of corrections to do for the classes that I teach, and it's in that specific time my subconscious is telling me that I have to finish the novel that I'm working on. This was happening yesterday. I have a deadline soon for my classes, and I don't know why that's when my brain decided to tell me that that was the right moment to finish the draft that I'm working on right now, and it took me like an hour to realize that this is the worst time for me to be stressing out over that, because I'm already stressing out over the correction, so that's pointless. So what I did is I opened the document and I worked on it for 10 minutes, and during those 10 minutes I forgot about the corrections, and after the 10 minutes I went back to stressing over the corrections, and that I'm still working on. I should learn to not stress out about that either, but that's work, and that's a different video, and that's a different channel, and that's something completely different to what we're dealing with here right now. I feel like I keep saying things similar to this whenever I make videos about more like productivity and stuff like that, but I do feel like it's a bit pointless or a little bit useless for the outcome of your work to add more pressure and more stress when you already have other factors, like external factors, that are affecting the way you feel and the time that you have available to you and to the activities that you want to carry out. Because I don't think it helps either of them. If I'm stressing out over my corrections while I'm writing, my writing's gonna be shit. And if I'm stressing out because I'm not writing when I'm doing my corrections, I'm not gonna put the attention that it deserves. One that links to the last video that I did, somewhere around here, is to journal. Journal, please. I beg you to write your thoughts and feelings on a notebook, and like, look at how pretty they are. Notebooks are the prettiest item that exists in this universe. In that other video, I talked a lot about the benefits of journaling and how it helps me think and organize my thoughts in general and my life, actually, because it's really good for being more organized and productive, and learn how to prioritize your tasks and goals in life and everything. There's nothing you can't do with a journal. So if you want to know more about that, feel free to go to that video, but I just wanted to mention it because it's just such a good tool. It's amazing. The next one's a thought. Writing has no age. You can publish your first book when you were 16. It probably won't be your best work because you're still very young and you have a lot to experience and a lot to learn, but you can do it. Christopher Paolini wrote Aragon when he was 16, and I think he published it at 18. But Tolkien published The Hobbit at 45 years old, and that comforts me. It makes me actually really happy. It makes me happy for people like Paolini that were able to start their career at such an early age and start learning and start getting success from their work that early on. But it also makes me really happy to see other people that are like middle-aged or people in their 80s that suddenly have the time and the willpower to sit down and write that novel that they've always wanted to write, and they randomly get published, and that's amazing. I think it's one of the few careers where you can debut at any age, and that doesn't necessarily affect the quality of the work. Look at Mary Shelley. There's so many great authors out there that debuted when they were really young, but there's tons of big authors that only started publishing past their 40s or their 50s even. So I feel like this is a very comforting thought. It's a career where you can start at any time, at any point. It's never ever too late. And don't let things that you see on social media or other people that have had more like success, or they had their big breaks at a younger age than you, that doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It won't, like I was saying, look at Tolkien, the biggest fantasy author that ever lived. And he was 45, and 45 in the grand scheme of things is not even that late. But a lot of the time we tend to think that we are too old for something, and then we speak to older people and they have to laugh and tell us how we don't realize how young we are. So if it ever crosses your mind that it's too late for you to become a writer or to do anything creative or to do anything for that matter, it's not. Start today or start tomorrow. It's okay, you can take today off. A really good one that I never remember. You have a say in your mood. If you woke up grumpy, you can fix that. You can change that. You can take action to be in a better mood. It's a good thing to identify the things that put you in a good mood so that you can implement them. You could have a really nice coffee or make a really nice meal for yourself, or you can watch a YouTube video from a creator that you really like. I think it's good to have a few things that are accessible, quick to do, cheap, so that you can truly do them. Because like, for example, yeah, it would put me in a really great mood to go on holiday to the Caribbean, but you get my point. It's not something that I can just like snap my fingers and do. And even if people around you are in a bad mood, that doesn't mean that you have to be. I feel like sometimes I kind of go around gathering other people's emotions and absorbing them, and they end up affecting my mood a lot. And when they are positive, that's really great because it's contagious and it spreads and I love it. But when it's negative, a lot of the time I'm in a bad mood and I don't even know why, and it ends up being because other people were in a bad mood. Or even when it's genuinely you not feeling that great and not like just being grumpy, because we all have grumpy days, you can snap out of it. That is within your power. You can even like just stop and be like, why am I in a bad mood? This is so stupid. It's making me not achieve the things that I wanted to achieve today. I'm going to change it. I'm just going to be in a good mood now. And I know it sounds silly, but it is possible. It's hard, but it's possible. When you're worrying a lot about your dreams and the idea of this future self that wants to be an artist of some kind or a creative person, if you notice that you started spiraling, which is probably the hardest bit, noticing that you're doing it. But if you manage to notice it, try and think about what's truly the worst that could happen in that aspect. I guess the worst thing that could happen is that you die and then you never manage to achieve your dreams because you died before you could do that. But in that case, well, you're dead. Doesn't matter anymore for you, I guess. I'm sorry, that's quite grim. What's the second worst thing that could happen? Following the example of being a writer, that your book never gets picked? So what? Write another one. You can do it. You did it once, you can do it again. As devastating as it might be, and as much as failure or rejection hurt, a creative person's life doesn't end with one work of art. And once you understand that the worst absolute thing that could happen to you in this aspect of your life, in your creative life, is not that bad, I think from there, de-escalate and try and realize that if the worst thing is not that bad, all of the other things that are smaller than that are, well, less bad. And I think the conclusion of this process will be that this can't really hurt you. It can only benefit you. If your book dies in submission or in query stage, well, you wrote a book. That's pretty fucking awesome. Congratulations, you're an incredible person. If it does get picked, hello. What if it gets published and nobody reads it? What if it gets published and nobody likes it? There will be a next time. Write another book. I think that's always the answer. Just do the next thing. Paint the next painting. I don't know anything about painting. Speaking of brains not being our best friends, just because you think something, it doesn't mean it's true. You might have heard about the idea of challenging your own thoughts. A lot of the time, we think that just because we have a thought that is, if not the truth, our truth, and we can't do anything about it. Like, for example, imagine that you're thinking, I'm a loser or I'm a failure. Says who? Says you? Well, you're wrong half of the time. I'm sorry to tell you. I'm still talking to myself. Please don't get offended. But if it applies and it helps you, there you go. I'm obviously not a therapist or an expert in psychology of any kind, but there's a difference between feeling something, such as cold, if you're cold, or you're hot. That's just what you're feeling. That is just the reality for you. The difference with thoughts is that if you're thinking you're a failure because you're in your late 30s and you've never published anything, or somebody said something like that and then it got stuck in your head and now it's become the reality for you, there's nothing stopping you from questioning that thought. One of the best things about your own thoughts is that you have the power to change them. And it's gonna be hard because if you truly believe to your core that you are a loser, it's going to take time, effort, and practice to debunk that. But if you work hard at it, it will eventually work. Plus, an artist should always be open-minded, and I think it's a good idea to try and challenge these like pillars of our identity that sometimes end up being more crippling than helpful. And the last one, and I find this one very difficult to follow, art is not a competition, it's a collaborative project. It's a team effort. One of those annoying, intrusive thoughts that I get sometimes is that, oh, there's this new book that sounds very similar to one that I wrote. This book that just came out from this person who's very famous or a very promising debut author sounds so much like a project that I have and that I'm working on, or that I had in the backlog to work on it someday. And then I feel like there's no place for me or for my book in the market anymore. And that's stupid, because it's not gonna be the same book. It would be such a big coincidence that like the whole book resembles another one without you knowing anything about that book. Like they just spontaneously generated in different parts of the world. That would be insane. So even if the two books sound very similar, I bet you they're not, because you're two different people. And it's not a competition. The fact that one book exists doesn't mean another one cannot exist. It's a competitive industry and it's very difficult to access for new authors. But I think it would be such nonsense to think that just because The Lord of the Rings existed, it stopped subsequent works of fantasy from existing. If anything, it's the opposite. It helped them flourish, and it gave a lot of people the ability and the confidence to create new things in the same realm, and it made it more possible for new stories to happen. That's it for today. That was all of the ideas that I had for battling creativity-related anxieties and stresses. I hope it was helpful, and please, if you have your own tips, tools, strategies, leave them in the comment section. I would love to read them and I would love to try them, and I will see you in the next video.